Okay, we're live.
All right, here we are.
Hello.
Welcome to Queerators, LGBTQ plus stories in comics. I'm Steve Orlando. You probably know me from being queer in comics and having social media. Right now, for the next couple weeks, the writer of Wonder Woman, and then back again in August for a little bit, as well as upcoming books like Darkhold for Marvel, books like Midnighter, Martian Manhunter in the past, queer-focused books like Crude and Virgil, Heber of opinions about everything from comics to wine to wrestling. I'm excited to talk with you guys today, as well as some people I know somewhat, like my friend Steenz here, and some people I'm really meeting for pretty much the first time, like Jenn Hickman, both ass kickers in their own right when it comes to comics. So I'm going to get out of the way and let them tell you a little bit about who they are, and then we'll dive in and talk about some queer shit for the next hour.
Excellent. So my name is Steenz. I am the current artist on the syndicated comic strip Heart of the City. You can read it for free every day at gocomics.com. I also did the Dwayne McDuffie Award-winning graphic novel Archival Quality with Ivy Noel Weir. Usually I have one around for people to look at, but I don't at the moment. You can look it up. And I've done a lot of other smaller anthologies, and then I'm currently working on a new series with Sam Satin called Side Quest, a visual history of tabletop role-playing games. So doing a whole lot of cool stuff. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, and I'm Jenn Hickman. I use they, them pronouns. I mostly draw. I've done Moth and Whisper with Ted Anderson at AfterShock. I did tests with Christopher Sabella at Vault. And then I also have worked with Sam Satin on a graphic novel called Bezkamp out from Lion Forge last year. Yeah, all drawing all the time.
Nice.
Right on. Well, you're both great. I'm excited to be talking to you. And, you know, hopefully, yeah, as I said, it's been, we were talking about it before. It's been, oh man, it's been such a tiring week and 2 weeks in comics. So it's nice to actually, you know, sit down and we can talk about some things that are exciting to us and things that are good to us. So, you know, I guess the first basic question is, you know, it's 2020. You know, the world is challenging. You said what you're working on now, but across that and across comics, like, representation behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, it's been different and it's changed since we were younger to today. I know for me, one of the first big things that affected me was Midnighter and Authority. I was someone who, you know, for better or worse, didn't really see a lot of myself in the queer representation that we had in the 90s. There was nothing wrong, of course, with your Jax from Will and Grace, but it just didn't, I didn't identify with it. So I was sort of like, I was struggling with it because I said, well, how, you know, that's not me. So, you know, do I fit in there? And then this character came along that, for better or worse, was more like me, vulgar psychopath, just like me. And and it was foundational to me to sort of see, even though it was in fiction, and even though now it seems like a foregone conclusion, you know, there is no one real way to be however you identify. There's no one real way to be gay. There's no one real way to be lesbian. Everything in between. And there's no one real way to identify your gender. It's what's right for you is what's right for you. And coming up as a bisexual person, that became even more important for me because, you know, there's pressure from both sides of the aisle, you know, to make it a quote unquote make a decision and like that. So for me, the real first building block was Midnighter. And we always talk on these panels about what we're working on now, what comes next. But I'd be interested to see what was first for you folks when you were coming up and what really first connected with you as readers.
Man, I don't know. That's hard because I don't know. It's interesting. You know, I am, you know, a bisexual woman, but I'm also, you know, married to a man. So, you know, from the outside point of view, it's like, should you be in this group? You know? So I don't know. It's always been kind of hard to see, you know, that idea that you can be queer and it can look different ways. And I think that's one of the things that I definitely want to make sure to put into my books and the comics that I make and the stories that I write is, normalizing that it looks different for everyone. One of the things that I'm doing in Heart of the City is I'm really expanding on the families of the kids. Before, the story was mostly just about Heart, because it is Heart of the City. It's about her. But, they wanted to, McMeel wanted to expand it and make sure that it really focused on the kids. And, in my mind, like when you're 11 years old, your family is pretty important to you, how you grew up and who you grew up around kind of creates who you are going to be. And that's why I wanted to make sure that the families were just as diverse, So Charlotte, who I'm pretty sure her parents haven't been introduced yet in the series, but I'm working ahead. But she's got 2 moms, and it's good to see like 2 Black women that are in a committed relationship, and it's not like a trauma story, It's
Totally.
like a story about them dealing with their weird child and like, just living in the world and just being. And I think that having that there is really helpful for readers, because while I'm not doing, a story that's like, and this is why they're gay, I'm not doing one of those stories. I think that's one of the parts that makes it more worthwhile, is because it's so normalized. Like, these are my moms. What of it? So I'm hoping that I get to expand on that more, not just with, queer parents, but also the children as well, because, at the age of 11 that's about the time when you're like, I don't know if I can participate in this, sleepover, what boy do you like kind of conversation, because I don't know, I want to make sure that those kinds of situations are reflected even in strip comics, because it's real,
I love that. Is that something that you have like absolute like you got to bring this to the story? You got to be in charge of the decisions?
Yeah.
Or was that something that was put on you?
I mean, I've got like a ton of freedom.
That's awesome. That's totally awesome.
Like at first it was actually kind of scary, because I was like, give me the guidelines, because I'm definitely one of those kinds of people that's like, I mean, even before this panel, I was like, where's the moderator? So, yeah, the fact that, they were just like, this is your story now, take it where you want to take it. I was like, oh shit. Okay, yeah. So, it took some time, as all writing does, to really figure out who these characters are and their motivations and whatnot. But, I've been working on it for a while now, and I'm really happy that, my editor has just been like, sick, sounds good, great, excellent, go for it.
That is awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I was going to talk about how, like, never seeing myself in mainstream, I was obsessed with Sandman and like Clamps manga and that sort of garbage as a teenager, because at least I was present, for better or for worse. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's really awesome that you have Steenz, that you have editorial freedom. Porn level of stories that we're all sort of used to and sick of. And that I think for a lot of hetero readers is sort of how they conceptualize us, which is pretty gross. So that's awesome that you get to do something different. And then Steve, you're a writer as well. So you also have a lot of like, I guess, like you get to decide what is being told in the story and like how we are being portrayed, right?
Well, again, as you hinted at when you asked what free reign you have, it really depends on the project.
Yeah, sure.
If you want a character with rules, be the writer of a 80-year-old icon from an island full of women, and then find out what you can and can't do on a daily basis.
Fair.
But yeah, for the most part, I mean, I like to push where I can. it's funny on my originals, I give up a lot of the power that a writer traditionally has because I look at those as true collaborations. So I often don't lean in the way that I would on work for hire stuff because in my opinion, on original, like if I'm working with you, you're there because I trust you. So I don't need to lean in as much. Like I need to step back and give you room to do what you do in the same way that I would hope that everyone else in the creative team would. And I feel the way about lettering and coloring. I feel the way about everyone.
Right.
So, but no, it's funny what Steenz was saying because since I was at DC, I pushed not just for like top line representation, but for lack of a better term, for like mundanity.
Yeah.
You know, for I remember I was doing Night of the Monster Men, and at one point this building in Gotham City gets crushed by this kaiju, but it was like, oh, there's two moms in there with the kid instead of a hetero couple, and you know, I used the way that my cousin and her wife is referred to by her kids and things like that, and I think. You know, you have to show people that, yeah, we have more than one type of story. We can have really boring stories, or we can just be there, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Like in the real world, sometimes behind you at the truck stop bathroom is a queer person. Like things happen.
I also wonder at what point do we need to think about, like, as creators, what kinds of queer stories like people are wanting, you know, like I personally feel like we don't need any more like origin stories when it comes to some superheroes because we're constantly getting these origin stories, you know? So, and I feel this kind of the same way about queer stories, you know, like I want to see less of I'm stressed out about coming out to my parents and more of there are two girls I have to choose between to take to the prom. How do I let one of them down, you know? And I think that what you were saying about, you know, the mundane is real. You know, I want to make sure that people realize that, like, you know, we're just as boring, just as normal. You know?
No, not true.
I mean, I don't have two minds about it, but I guess my take would be that there's room for both to answer questions.
Yeah.
People admit, like, without making a value judgment, but like there are realms of what I would call utopian queer fiction that don't appeal to me personally, but they are really great for some people. You know, there's folks that need that. And so,
absolutely.
Really, I think the answer. We need to be able to tell everything from top to bottom archetypes of stories. You know, instead of just saying, "Oh, well, these are the types of things that you can get right now," and that's because there's the needs of the queer readership is just as diverse as the needs of any readers. You know, people that need. You know, I am a cynical asshole. Like Lumberjanes is not for me, but hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people need Lumberjanes, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's
I think at the end of the day, more variety, just more and more and more. And that's like when I'm thinking about what even is a mainstream comic these days, and whether or not like we're like pushing for representation or like a whole story that's just for us and that happens to be in front of an audience that is huger than us. I think, I don't know, maybe just a big tidal wave of variety of queerness is the answer. Like there's not one party line. It's just more.
Yeah.
We're still at like foothold 1, I feel.
This is, we're not there yet.
When it comes to at least like mainstream rep, I mean, when Vita and I did the non-binary story in Supergirl, there'd never been like a focused non-binary character at Marvel or DC. You know, and that was
absolutely
2017. It's not like it was in the dark ages. So, I mean, there's still a lot. There's a lot of work to be done. You know, and it's
interesting to like remember that there's still a lot of work to be done, especially considering who your circle is, you know, and the kind of entertainment that you consume and just who you're around, you know, like if, like, I feel like it makes sense and it's obvious to like be aware of the people in the backgrounds of your comics. And I know one of the things that I came up against at, with Heart is that the color department was like continuously like coloring the people in the background of my comics as white. And in my head, I was like, why? Like, why would you think that's the default, And then I have to realize that, like, I'm probably one of the first few, Black creators that does a comic that doesn't just take place within the home. And so because it's around other people and it's not just here's this Black family story, it's like here's a story about, all kinds of people, then you have to realize that the people in the background are just as important, and that's what I definitely wanted to push across, was making sure that, it was representative from beginning to end. And so I completely forgot, that sort of thing is something that I would have to come up against because of, the people that I'm around and the entertainment I consume. It's like, it's automatic for me,
Coloring is so important. It especially breaks my heart when I, work on superhero books, because so often you don't have a lot of contact with the colorists due to, office, whatever.
Sure.
I mean, when I had when I had Vixen in JLA, the amount of times that I had to remind people that she is not, that her skin tone was off and outside of canon and needed to be put closer to what we had established when I was working on the one shot with Jamal and also Vita again. Like, it happened a lot. It happened, well, probably as much as you can imagine. I want to say more than you can imagine, but
it's definitely
all the time is as much as you can imagine. And it means a lot to people, and I think that you need to be on it. And you were saying, Jen, like, what do I have control over? Like, the perception of those writers is still that I have control over everything. So I especially on superhero books, I try to be vigilant on that stuff because it means a lot to people. When I asked, I don't know if you guys know, I never assume people know people from social media, but when I took over JLA, I asked my friend Jam, she's at 11 After on social, and I said, what if
I think she's cool, yeah.
If I could get one thing over the plate with Vixen, what would it be? Because in my experience with these things, like, you can fight real hard for one or two things and maybe get it, or fight hard for 10 things and get none of them.
Yeah.
And she said, natural hair. And it was something, it's why I value talking to people, because I didn't even realize what a big thing that was. And we got it through. And, I've watched that sort of echo out since that book came out. Now the toy has it. Now her license appearances have it. And but still, like the coloring issue and everything, like, it was a constant reminder on the book, or we had to be constantly reminding people to stay on model, because it really does matter.
I would agree.
One of my favorite things to do, since I mostly draw and don't write much, is to sneak into every single background all the people that I think should be there, and I never ask permission. And so far, I've gotten absolutely zero pushback. For whatever reason, maybe I just work with amazing people. Maybe they don't look at the pages too closely. It's hard to say which. But like, I can't think of a single story that I've drawn where I haven't slipped in like 3 people holding hands, a very obviously trans person just wandering around, just sort of trying to push both the diversity in what I am going to draw and push the expectations of what the reader is going to expect when you like skim a crowded mall or something like that.
Yeah. But then
and
doing
like,
that,
I would never ask for permission, I just do it.
Yeah, and I honestly think that's really great that you do that, because it not only is great for, representation, but I feel like it also kind of takes the pressure off of all stories to like, have, like, if you're going to have a trans character, I feel like so many times we're like, okay, well, we have to, like, this story needs to be about that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like we gotta bring in like a sensitivity reader, and we gotta make sure that like everything about this has been thought of already. And if I'm just here in the background, like slinging them in, like,
there you go. Just give us more and more. Because, not every every piece has to be an identity piece, you know?
Exactly,
and I think that's really important. Not every queer story has to be, this is why I'm queer. It could be, you know, like I did a mini comic for myself called Receiving Transmissions, which you can get on my Gumroad. It was the first time that I ever like written and drew it myself, and I decided I still hate writing. But you know, I did it, and now I know. But in the book, you know, one of the characters is kind of going through it. She doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life. Her job is kind of shitty. And she ends up getting these letters from someone who just signs it as Mercury. So she feels like, okay, so is this planet writing to me, you know? So it's kind of like a sci-fi kind of mystery story, but then, you know, near the end, things start getting better. And, you know, she realizes that, you know, someone is always kind of looking out for her, even if he doesn't know who it is. And it kind of makes her feel better. So all the while, she lives with her girlfriend, you know? So it's like, it is a
just like in there.
Yeah, it is a queer story because these are the two people that you see the most in the comic, you know, but, you know, there's never a thing like, you know, oh, I can't take you to my mom's house because it's going to be awkward. It's like, let's figure out this sci-fi thing that's going on right now. Like, who's sending these letters, you know? And I like that, you know, being able to have those kinds of pressure-free stories, because it definitely makes it easier, not just for readers, but also for new creators, because then they can see, okay, well, then that means that my story will be welcome as well, even though it may not be as eloquent, you know, or heavy.
Totally.
I mean, it's funny to me because I agree with you both, but also like the next like prominently queer book I have is like the tensest thing that I've ever written.
Yeah.
Is that To Kill a Man?
It is, yes, and it's about a mixed martial artist who is outed and who's catfished right before his title shot and gets outed and abandoned.
Oh my God, I'm like stressed out already.
Everything you're saying is true. And then I'm like, here's this book about violence and pent up and like welcome to my, you know, Tynan once said, but like, if you want a book about like gay hugging, you come to him. But if you want a book about like, gay punching, that's why you come to me. So it's just funny to me because I agree with both of you. And then I'm like, read Kill a Man, a book where someone is conflicted in the closet and his whole world falls apart without it. And like, well,
but I think, you know, it goes back to
real
what
too.
Both of you were saying. We just need more of it. That way we have those options. Yeah. You know, we want to be able to be like, do I want to feel a little, you know, do I want to feel like I'm going through it, or do I want to, you know, cry some happy tears? Which one do I want to feel like? You know, and it's the same thing like every other kind of entertainment. You know, we should be able to have that variety. Yeah.
Although, you know, here's an interesting thing that I'll bring up, because one thing I do think about Kill Man, I'm interested with both of you too. And it's going to get pretty real, I suppose. Not about me, but just about queer life, but still, hopefully in a fun way. So, like, you know, I try to put something in every new book I do that's part of the community or part of the experience that I don't think readers, probably so many of whom will not be in the community, have seen before. And it can either be something small or it can be something like, you know, loud and raw. And I think of the fact that like when I was watching Looking and like, you know, the lead is about to go on a date and you cut to like him like upside down in the bathroom with a fucking douche next to him, a thing that straight people probably didn't know existed or, you know, was necessary. And at the same, like that is important because it is like a real part of the world that if you're learning from reading queer fiction, you probably don't know about. You know, I think about the fact this is the funny, embarrassing part of the story. When I was a kid, I didn't know how sex happened because longer than other people probably. And I just mean in general. So I distinctly remember watching Seinfeld with my parents, and there was an episode where Elaine and Jerry had tried fucking. And it cut to them on opposite sides of the bed and like, you know, like away from each other. Like, and I genuinely, and God, welcome to my live stream, Read Pop. I genuinely thought that like Jerry had like came on the mattress and Elaine was like hoovering up the stuff. Cause I didn't know that the thing went in the thing.
Yeah. That's how it works. So. You didn't know.
Yeah.
And watching, that's not how it works.
It's like frogs.
I keep trying that, Jen, but it never works. Anyway, so the point is, I saw that, and I didn't, I could, and there wasn't context, and I didn't learn from it. So I do try to put new learning things, even if there's small details in my stuff all the time. Is there stuff you guys do that's like that? Because, Kill a Man, I know that there are things, at least in my work, that are going to be talked about in that book that, to my knowledge, have never been talked about in a book before. Your first time, and you're from an area that has no sex ed, so you don't know that lube exists.
Right.
Some guy, it's very uncomfortable. That's a real life experience that I don't think's ever been put to the page before. And it doesn't have to be about anything about the community. But are you guys doing that? Like you had mentioned when you try to draw and Steenz, I think it's a thing to talk about that's interesting.
Yeah. So I can think of one instance, and this is for a pitch that has yet to find a home. The writer is a cis dude who has a trans dude as his main character, and was trying to write in that the trans dude is going to take his testosterone pills. And I was like, that's not how that works. And so I had to sit there and educate the writer that it's, injections if you're poor, gel if you're rich, basically. And we could choose for the character based on his family's income what would be the most realistic. And I felt that that was a really important thing to push and to make sure it was absolutely accurate, because the last thing I want is some trans guy who isn't out and maybe doesn't even realize what he is yet to sit there and be like, oh yeah, you just take a pill. It's that easy. Just blatant misinformation. Nah, let's not do that.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out if there's anything that I had ever done. I think it's less so in my own creative work and more so as an editor I have. And I definitely like to make sure that people do their research, mostly because I will do the research if you don't, and I don't want to do extra work. But, mostly it's, I think about any time that anyone wants to write about, a queer couple, and then they never actually bring up their parents at all, or how their parents feel about the other. And I feel like that's something that is super important, because even in hetero relationships, your mother has something to think about the person that you're with, and sometimes that colors how they move about the world. It colors how they talk to them about their family. It colors how they talk to their family themselves, So I think, I can't think of anything that I've done personally, but I definitely have an eagle eye when it comes to representation, especially if the representation isn't, doesn't match the creator's identity, So it could be anything from, okay, well, let's do a little more research, or do you have the time and money to get, a sensitivity reader or a cultural consultant,
Editorial is also such a boon when it comes to that. That's why I actually think it all has to be diversified, but I especially want diversity in editorial, because I've been in the situation. I don't know why other stories come back to Justice League, but when I was on that book, we put Ryan Choi on the book, and you might have noticed I'm in fact not Chinese, and so I really wanted to, and the lore for him unfortunately was already somewhat stereotypical.
Sure.
And I couldn't change that. So I was going to change what I could as much as I thought I could. And rather than him just being super into science and all these things, I had it that, or no, he was super into science, but rather than his parents pushing him and for it and being you have to be, a physicist and all these things and work. I had his parents, they were both musicians and artists, and it was actually his form of rebellion that he, wanted to go into science because he didn't like what they liked.
Yeah.
And the teaching moment for me was not that. It was when the editor, Jess Chen, who's awesome, was like, well, I'm Hong Kongese and I see what you did here, but you actually overcorrected so much that this would simply never happen.
Yeah.
He was like, these Chinese parents, in my experience, simply don't exist. And and it was great. Jess is still awesome. She was new to the company or new to the book then, and she remains awesome now. But it was really it was eye-opening for me, as many things are all the time. I was so worried about not being like, here I am, the guy that doesn't understand and is just making a Chinese nerd, that I had just like, I was out of the stadium, like I wasn't even on the field anymore.
But you know what? I like to think that sometimes it's better to go too far and then have an editor reel you back in than it is to not push.
Not try. Yeah, I completely agree.
For sure, because I know that I'm on a book where I'm editing, and one of the creators was like, I don't know if we should have this scene because it depicts police and they're shooting someone, and at first I was like, that's really nice of you to bring up, but like they're shooting a clearly bad guy. They're like keeping people safe and actually like protecting people. So it's like, I get where you're coming from, especially considering, what's going on now. But, in the scheme of this story in particular, I don't think we really need to worry about it, So I was definitely way happier that they brought it up at all instead of no one bringing it up, because then it made me think, I may have
like nobody's even thinking. Yeah,
because I definitely considered when I first read the script, but as we were working it out and getting the outline together, I was like, okay, this is fine. We made it fine. So to have them bring it up later down the road, I was like, oh, I already took care of it. But then I was thinking, but it is good because perhaps what I thought all those months ago may not have been as updated as what I think now. So I think it's always good to have that conversation when it comes to sensitivity, Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that definitely speaks to the need to diversify editorial specifically, because there's definitely some individuals where you're like, you're not going to know how to have this conversation. I'm going to skip it. And there's other individuals where I'm like very comfortable with having that conversation.
Yeah, I definitely am one of those kinds of people. I know my agent is often like, calm down, but I'm really aggressive when it comes to who's going to be editing my work, because I know that I'm going to make a mistake. Like, I don't think I'm a writer or anything, but we're all human. And I want to make sure that the editor is going to do their due diligence and keep an eye on that kind of work, So I get really into, talking to the editorial team and whatnot before even like signing on to a project. And of course my agent is like, please get the money first. But in my head, I'm like, but I'm not signing on to a project if I don't feel like I'm actually growing, or I don't feel like I'm actually getting the kind of feedback that I need, So.
Well, and it also it helps maintain diversity everywhere else if you have diversity in editorial, because to be, like I've been on the cusp of having the reputation on books on companies as the guy that's always complaining about social stuff and always complaining about representation. But you only get those notes from people for whom representation doesn't matter. So if you have it from above, then everything you do is heard and received differently. There's a reason why when it doesn't matter what book, but when I've been on a book and I've asked for a female co-writer, it took 18 months because everyone I brought up, oh, hard to work with. Oh, hard to work with. Oh, hard to work with. Are they? Or, what's the common denominator here?
Yeah.
Right.
And even things like, oh, they're not good with deadlines. Well, maybe they're not, but are they getting as many chances as every other dude? Like
totally.
I think it eases everything else, because even once you get in the door places, it's been my experience that the same, as with any other job, like two people can say the same thing and be received completely differently. And
absolutely,
you need that support above you. Otherwise, you're just the, Steve is the crazy cat lady complaining that there's got to be, more diversity in the books.
But it's also, that's why it's good not to just have the one. You don't.
Yeah.
Even in like a pool of editorial, like, I don't have all the answers at all. I feel a lot more comfortable, going up against the powers that be if I have people on my sides to be like, we all agreed that this needs to change, So hopefully,
Yeah.
in the future, we don't just get like, and you'll be our token, and you'll be our token, and you'll be our
Right.
token, and we actually,
it's the exact same thing as just queer representation. Like, all we
Yeah.
need is more.
yeah, absolutely,
It's all connected.
yeah, and then then you get to see different sorts of versions of what you think is right, so like while I think I want to see more normal, regular, everyday queer stuff, Steve wants to get that hard-hitting ish, and that is good. You definitely want to have all those kinds of people saying that up front so that we can get both of them instead of just the one.
Totally.
But yeah.
Steve only wants to write about pain.
Yeah, and that's okay. Everyone needs at least one.
It's me. I'm doing. It's funny, with the same co-writer. I'm doing a young adult book next year, and then also like the most aggressive like gay slasher/horror book that I've ever written. It's basically it's like Gay Get Out, and it's just funny because on one hand we're like rainbows. It's like it's literally like not queer rainbows, like animal-based rainbows. But not queer rainbows either. And then I'm just like, vampire Peter Thiel in the other book, and I'm just like, God help, anybody.
Excellent.
I'm fascinated to see how that goes over, because it is aggressive. Like I'm pretty sure that my editor is blushing as a straight guy reading that script, because it's descriptive.
If you're not making your editor uncomfortable, are you doing your job?
I mean, that's a low stakes fun conversation though, from like writing and art side, because we're trying to keep it light. But like, is there anything more awkward than writing about sex in a script? Like, I find myself suddenly I'm fucking like, I'm writing fucking, I'm like, Josh comes in and suddenly he's pressing his member, and I'm just like, what the fuck, like. It's weird knowing that someone is gonna read it. So I'm like, at best I'm Ian Rice, but I'm never myself.
So I do adult comics with Filthy Figments, and fortunately I draw and write for that venue. So I'm the only one who really has to read the script aside from the editor, but I do need to write down what I'm putting into it for the editor, and I get so like depressingly clinical with the description of what's going to be on the panel, and then I'm like, please just trust me that it's going to be sexy when I actually draw it. Like, this is not, there's not enough good vocabulary words. Just wait for the art. I can't imagine just writing and having to hand that off and be like, make it look nice.
Oh my God.
I just look at my very kind editors in some cases, and I'm just like typing this, and we're like, oh God, like you either think that I'm weird, because again, it's like like Charlotte Rampling or something, or you're just like really uncomfortable because I've been very honest about what's going on. Like no one, like
right.
I don't know, maybe I'm sure that there are people in comics that are just like, page 4, they fuck. Like I'm trying to,
but then the writers who just leave it there also then go self-immolate out of shame and embarrassment for even saying that. Like,
yeah. I think that's why it's good to have like a good team that you like trust as well.
Yeah.
Because like I can't imagine just getting a single line and being like, go with it. Because I'd be like, I need more than this, But then there are some people who are like, this is too much, Jen. You need to chill. But yeah, that's why I really think you should have like a good, solid team around you as well.
Yeah.
I will always remember. I'm as long like I'm trying to keep this thing light and tell entertaining stories. So like I'll tell you, like I did my book Virgil. Very proud of that book. It was 2 years of research for it. I go to the art phase. There's one sex scene, and Virgil is getting topped, and the artist did not know where things went, and so like I tried everything. I tried like to the point where I eventually screen capped porn, and at the end of the day, I still got a man having sex with a man's thigh.
No.
Oh no.
I had to Photoshop the art. Like I photoshopped the line art before I went to colors and just moved his ass over.
Oh wow.
Sitting on my computer.
Just like
it was driving me. So I was just like moving the ass over, so everything lined up.
Oh my God. That's hysterical.
I mean,
Do you know, was the artist uncomfortable with it, or were they just not skilled enough?
There is no.
I mean, you don't, if you want to leave it. Yeah.
I would say that there appeared to be some sort of, drought of experience or knowledge, but I the nicest way that I could possibly answer.
He said a drought of knowledge. My God.
That is very nice.
There seems, but I mean, like, I will remember just like, my ex coming in and be like, what are you doing on there? Because I'm just like sitting, like tapping the left key as an ass move on my version of Photoshop at the time.
Just making it perfect. That's all.
So yeah, it was, I mean, quite the experience. So yeah, it's nice to have people that understand what you're scripting, I suppose, is what I'm saying.
There we go.
We'll take it. So it looks like we've got 5 minutes left.
Yeah, on that note, shall we wrap up?
Yeah, I guess we can say where you can find us. What's something that you're looking forward to reading, perhaps?
Ooh, I like that.
I was gonna say, let's recommend other people's stuff. This month and everything.
Yes. Okay. Well, then
absolutely.
I'll go first. Again, my name is Steenz. You can find me at Steenz on Twitter and on Instagram. That's OHEY Steenz. I talk about stuff on Twitter. And one of the things I'm looking forward to reading is Twins. It's a graphic novel coming out soon, middle grade. And as a twin, specifically a Black girl twin, I feel like this book is for me specifically. So I'm really excited to read it.
Where can you find me? I'm for the Venn diagram that leans towards comics. I'm on Twitter. It's at Orlando. For the Venn diagram that leans towards exercise and me being real slutty, I'm on Instagram. It's also the Steve Orlando. What am I excited about? You know what? I don't even know that when it's coming out, but the new book from Ram V, Blue and Green, out from Image. Ram and all the White Noise folks are awesome in general, but he sent me a preview of Blue and Green. It is like a psychological interior horror graphic novel that is also about playing the saxophone. And it is incredible. It is like that and Department of Truth that's coming out from Tynan and Martin Simon is like the second coming of the best era of Vertigo, where like you have these hand-painted books that are really challenging norms, and it's gonna be wild 2021 for both those books, and 2020, I guess, for the ones that come out in the fall. But I'm very excited to see those. Yeah,
I'll pretty much read anything that JT4 will do. I just gobble it up.
Well, he's
absolutely. Yeah. I'm Jenn Hickman. You can find me on Twitter at the Jensington. It's like Kensington Gardens, but with a J instead of a K. And I am looking forward to Renegade Rule. It's going to be out from, I believe, Dark Horse, I want to say next year. And that is by Rachel Silverstein and B-Con. And I am so hyped for that book. It is about gay gamer girls and drama.
Yeah.
I'm
in. Let's go.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Well, since we have a couple more, like 2 more minutes, I'll wrap up. But I do want to say this because it is germane to what we're doing. I want to ask, what is one cool thing in both of your offices? And I will tee that up by saying I've been holding this mace the whole time, but it actually is a bisexual story because I'm here with my boyfriend in the apartment that I moved into. Very briefly lived with my ex, also a guy. But when I took over comics, the whole industry, because I don't know why I said it that way, but when I took over comics, specifically when I was on Robin Eternal, I got a message from my friend Christina, who I went to the junior prom with, and her husband was super into Batman. Oh, excuse me, Senior Prom. I apologize. He's not on the screen. Her husband, super into Batman, and she was like, "Can you sign me some comics?" And I said, "Sure." So I signed some Batman and Robin journal trades to her husband, and put them in the mail. And a couple weeks later, I got this huge package. Christina's Ukrainian, and it was this enormous ceremonial mace that she sent me as a thank you.
Oh my God.
From Batman comics, which is called the Bulawa, and is a thing for traditional Ukrainian art. So now it's in my office. I'm like the lamest version of Hawkman. But I would not, if not for my sexuality, wouldn't have taken her to the prom, wouldn't have this mace. So really, it's
Nice.
that's why we're here, when you really get right down to it.
I love it.
In both of your offices, and then we'll jump off.
Anytime I do these kinds of things, people always remark on my chair, my gamer chair.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's an incredible chair.
It's
Yeah,
elite.
it is. It is for true gamers only.
Yes.
So my husband and I got married 2 years ago. Time is nothing. And he put this chair on the registry, and I didn't realize it until we got it. And I was like, "You put a gaming chair on our registry? Where are you going to put it? Because we don't have space. And who's going to put it together? Because I put together everything in this house." And so I'm like super mad. I'm like, I hate this fucking chair. I can't believe we have this goddamn huge ass gamer chair in the way. And then I sat in it, and I was like, oh no. So I was like, listen, I need this chair. This chair is mine now. So yeah, that's how I got this gamer chair. It was a wedding gift. But yeah, as an artist though,
upsetting.
If you do need a good chair for drawing, seriously, gamer chairs are the way to go. So yeah.
That's good to know. Upsetting that it's so comfy, actually.
I know, and it's so expensive.
All right, I have a collection of skulls that I keep
Sick.
above my desk, and I have way too many of them. And I would get more, but I'm out of shelf.
That's actually the plot of Phantom, by the way.
And this is my favorite one. My partner got it for me from a roadside stop in New Orleans.
Oh my God, I love it.
And they're not for anything. I tried to pretend they were for drawing reference because like this one's matriculated and whatever, but they're just cool.
I think that's a really cool thing to have. Good job, Jen.
Sure. We'll pretend it's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Does that wrap us up?
So, I started so I can wrap it up. Thank you guys for coming and talking about this stuff, and for bobbing and weaving and moving with the punches, because we had a heavier discussion plan, but also it just didn't fit the moment. We needed something light. We needed me to embarrass myself and for you guys to watch. So I thank you both for doing so. I'm sure we'll be doing it again at queer cons in the future. Mm-hmm. Thank you both for coming in. I'm going to hop off. You're both wonderful. Stay safe. Everyone who's watching, stay safe. Wear a mask, you fools. And we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Yes. Thank you so much. Bye.